She desperately needed this cleaning job to feed her son. So when some man threw a tantrum over cold coffee in the kitchen, she kicked him out and told him to grow up. What she didn't know, he was the city's most dangerous mafia boss. And now he won't let her go. Celia Martinez needed exactly 3 things from this job: a paycheck, health insurance, and enough left over to keep Leo in that private school for 1 more year. She didn't need to know who owned the mansion, didn't need to make friends with the staff, and definitely didn't need any drama. The wrought iron gates had opened automatically when the cab dropped her off at 6 a.m. Now, standing in the marble foyer with her cleaning supplies and a thermos of gas station coffee, Celia took in the crystal chandeliers and Renaissance paintings with the emotional investment of someone reading a cereal box. Rich people. Same problems. Fancier wallpaper. You must be the new girl. An older man in a pristine butler's uniform appeared from nowhere, moving like a ghost. His name tag read Bernard. His face read, "I've seen things that would break you. I'll show you to the kitchen. You'll start there." Great. Celia followed him through hallways that smelled like furniture polish and old money. The place was dead quiet, not peaceful quiet, but the kind of silence that happens when people are afraid to breathe too loud. They passed a maid dusting a vase like it might explode. Another staff member practically flattened himself against the wall to let them pass. "Is everyone here terrified of dust, or?" Celia asked. Bernard's expression didn't change. "You'll understand soon enough. 3 rules. Don't ask questions. Don't go into the East Wing. And whatever you do, don't." A crash echoed from somewhere ahead, followed by a man's voice roaring words that would make a sailor blush. Bernard's face went gray. Oh no, not today. They rounded the corner into a kitchen the size of Celia's entire apartment. All stainless steel and marble countertops, with enough cooking equipment to run a restaurant. And in the middle of it stood a man in an expensive black suit, tie loosened, dark hair slightly disheveled, holding a coffee mug like he wanted to prosecute it for crimes against humanity. "This is cold." He slammed the mug down. Coffee splashed across the counter. "How many times do I have to?" He spotted a trembling junior cook in the corner. "You. Did you make this?" The cook looked ready to faint. "I am sorry, Mr. Salerno, sir, I didn't." "Sorry doesn't make it hot, does it?" The man's voice could cut glass. He was maybe 40, with the kind of sharp features and cold eyes that suggested he'd never heard the word no, and lived in a world where people jumped when he entered a room. Right now, he was having a meltdown over coffee like a toddler who'd been told he couldn't have candy. Celia had raised a 10-year-old through terrible 2s, 3s, and every age after. She recognized a tantrum when she saw one. Bernard grabbed her arm. "Don't." Too late. "Hey," Celia's voice cut through the kitchen like a referee's whistle. "You." Suit. The man turned slowly, looking at her like she'd just appeared out of thin air. The kitchen went so quiet Celia could hear her own heartbeat. "Excuse me?" His voice dropped to something dangerous. "You're excused," Celia said flatly, setting down her cleaning supplies. "Out. My kitchen. Now." Time stopped. Somewhere, a spatula clattered to the floor. Bernard made a sound like a dying animal. The man in the suit blinked. Once. Twice. Like his brain was buffering. "Your kitchen?" "I'm the new head maid, which means this," Celia gestured around, "is my responsibility. And I'm not cleaning up after your little temper tantrum over lukewarm coffee." So she pointed at the door. "Out. Come back when you can act like a grown man." The silence that followed could have suffocated someone. Every person in that kitchen looked like they were watching a car crash in slow motion, horrified, unable to look away, already mourning the victim. The man stared at Celia. His jaw tightened. His hands flexed. She crossed her arms and stared right back, utterly unbothered. Then something impossible happened. The corner of his mouth twitched. His shoulders started shaking. And Victor Salerno, the most feared mafia boss on the East Coast, a man who'd allegedly once made a rival disappear for interrupting his dinner, threw his head back and laughed. Not a polite chuckle. A real, full-body laugh that echoed off the kitchen walls, the kind of laugh that sounded rusty from disuse. "Oh my God," he wheezed, actually wiping his eyes. "Oh my," another wave of laughter. "You have no idea." "I have plenty of ideas," Celia interrupted. "And my first idea is you leave, so I can clean this mess and make proper coffee." "You want hot coffee? I'll bring you hot coffee. But you don't get to throw tantrums in my workspace. That's the deal." Victor's laugh faded into something that looked almost like wonder. He studied her face like he was trying to figure out if she was real. "What's your name?" "Celia." "Celia," he tested it out, still smiling. "Celia just fired me from my own kitchen." "I didn't fire you. I'm giving you a timeout." "There's a difference." Another crack of laughter. Then, to everyone's shock, Victor Salerno straightened his tie, nodded once, and walked toward the door. He paused in the doorway, looked back at Celia, and said, "I like my coffee black. 2 sugars." "And Celia?" "What?" "Welcome to the family." He left. The kitchen remained frozen for exactly 5 seconds. Then Bernard lunged forward, gripping Celia's shoulders. "Do you have any idea what you just did? Do you know who that was?" "An overgrown toddler with expensive taste in suits." "That was Victor Salerno." "Victor Salerno?" Bernard looked ready to pass out. "The Victor Salerno. He's killed people for less than what you just." "He laughed," Celia pointed out. "That's what's terrifying," Bernard hissed. "He never laughs. He never. People don't talk to him like that. People who disrespect him don't. They disappear." Celia processed this information, looked around at the staff who were all staring at her like she was a ghost who didn't know she was dead yet. "Huh," she said finally. "So, I just told off a Mafia boss." "Yes."
"And he
laughed." "Yes." Celia picked up the spilled coffee mug, examined it, and set it in the sink.
"Well, too late now."
"Somebody want to show me where the good coffee beans are? I've got a timeout toddler decaffeinate." Victor was still smiling when he walked into his office, and that smile made Rico Castellano want to reach for his gun. "Boss," Rico stood from the leather chair, his voice tight. "We need to talk about what just happened." Victor poured himself a whiskey. It was barely 7 in the morning, but this moment deserved it. "You mean the part where I got kicked out of my own kitchen?" "That's exactly what I mean." Rico's face was red. Behind him, 2 other lieutenants, Marco and Tommy, looked equally disturbed. "That woman disrespected you. In front of staff. In front of witnesses." "She did." Victor took a sip, savoring it. "So she has to go," Marco said, cracking his knuckles. "Today.
Right now."
"I'll handle it personally. Make it clean." Victor's smile vanished. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. "You'll do nothing," he said quietly. The 3 men exchanged glances. "Boss, with respect," Rico started. "She stays." "Victor," Rico stepped closer, lowering his voice. "People are going to talk. They already are. Word spreads fast. If they think you're going soft, if they think you let some random maid disrespect you without consequences, let them talk." "You don't understand." Rico's voice rose. "Your reputation is everything. It's what keeps rivals in check, keeps territories stable, keeps our operations running. One crack in that reputation and—" "She didn't know who I was," Victor interrupted, setting down his glass. "Did you see her face? Not an ounce of fear. Not because she was brave, because she genuinely had no idea." "That's not the point." "That's exactly the point." Victor leaned back against his desk. "When's the last time someone spoke to me like I was just a person? Not a title. Not a reputation. Just some guy having a bad morning." Tommy shifted uncomfortably. "Never, boss."
"Exactly."
"Never." Victor's eyes went distant. "My own mother started choosing her words carefully around me 15 years ago. Everyone's terrified. Everyone's calculating. Everyone's trying to figure out what I want to hear before they open their mouths. That's called respect," Rico said. "That's called a prison." Victor picked up his whiskey again. And this woman, Celia, she walked in and treated me like I was anyone. Some annoying customer throwing a tantrum. And you know what? She was right. I was throwing a tantrum over cold coffee. You're allowed to throw tantrums, Marco protested. You're Victor Salerno. And apparently that doesn't mean anything to her. Victor's smile returned. I want to know what else she'll do. What else she'll say. I'm keeping her. Rico's jaw clenched. This is a mistake. Then it's my mistake to make.
She stays.
That's final. The three men left, clearly unhappy, muttering to each other about soft bosses and dangerous precedents. Victor didn't care. For the first time in years, he felt genuinely curious about another human being. Downstairs, Celia was learning exactly how badly she'd messed up. Bernard had pulled her into the pantry, a closet-sized room that smelled like flour and fear, and was speed-talking through Victor's greatest hits like a true crime podcast on Fast Forward. And then there was the incident with the union leader, who tried to skim from the ports. They found him in a cement foundation in Newark, and the prosecutor, who was building a RICO case, just vanished. Entire family relocated by witness protection, and the rival boss who tried to move in on the gambling operations. They say Victor personally. Okay, stop. Celia held up her hand. Her stomach felt like she'd swallowed rocks.
So he's like,
actually dangerous. Not movie dangerous. Real dangerous. Real dangerous, Bernard confirmed, his eyes wild. He controls half the East Coast. Drugs, weapons, gambling, construction. If it makes money and bends laws, Victor Salerno has his hand in it. Celia thought about her son. About the private school she'd lied on applications to afford. About the scholarship interview next week that could change everything. She thought about the man who'd laughed in her kitchen. He seemed nice when he left, she offered weakly. Bernard made a noise like a strangled cat. Nice? Nice? Celia, he's a killer. He's ended people for smaller slights than what you just did. The fact that he laughed doesn't mean. Does he hurt staff? Bernard paused. What? His own staff. Does he hurt them? Kill them for mistakes?
Well, no.
Not usually. He's harsh, demanding, impossible to please, but he doesn't. Then I'm probably fine. Celia straightened her shoulders. Look, I can't change what happened. I didn't know. Now I do. But I'm not going to walk around scared of my own shadow. I've got rent to pay and a kid to feed. If he wants me gone, he'll fire me. Until then, I've got a kitchen to run. Bernard stared at her like she'd grown a second head. You're insane. I'm broke. There's a difference. Celia pushed past him, back into the kitchen where staff were still whispering. She found the good coffee beans, imported, probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget, and made a proper pot. Strong, hot, perfect. Then she did something either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. She poured a cup, added 2 sugars like he'd requested, put it on a silver tray, and headed for Victor's office. Staff flattened themselves against walls as she passed. Someone whispered, "She's dead." Celia knocked on the heavy oak door. "Come in." She entered to find Victor alone, standing by the window overlooking his estate. He turned, saw her, and something like delight crossed his face.
Celia.
I was hoping you'd come. She set the coffee on his desk. Black. 2 sugars. Like you asked. He picked it up, took a sip, and closed his eyes. Perfect. Good. Next time, try asking nicely instead of throwing things. His eyes snapped open. Are you giving me life advice? Someone should. Celia met his gaze. Will that be all, Mr. Salerno? Victor laughed again. That same rusty, surprised sound.
Yes.
That will be all. For now. Celia left, closing the door behind her. In the hallway, Bernard was waiting, looking like he'd aged 10 years. You're still alive, he whispered. Apparently, Celia said, and went back to work. The next morning, Victor showed up in the kitchen at 6:15 a.m. Celia was prepping ingredients for breakfast, organizing the chaos the previous staff had left behind. She heard expensive shoes on marble and didn't even look up. Coffee's not ready yet. Come back in 10 minutes. I'm not here for coffee. She glanced over. Victor was leaning against the doorframe in dark slacks and a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows.
Casual.
Relaxed. Deliberately taking up space in her domain. Then why are you here? Watching you work. That's creepy. I prefer supervisory. Celia pointed her knife at him, just a paring knife, but his bodyguard who'd materialized in the hallway reached for his gun. Victor waved him off. Rule number 1, Celia said. No hovering during prep work. You want to watch me work? There's a perfectly good dining room 30 feet away. What if I like it here? Then you can like it somewhere else. She went back to chopping onions.
Out.
Victor's smile grew. He didn't move. Celia stopped chopping, turned fully to face him. Are you testing me? Maybe. Do you want burnt breakfast? Because that's how you get burnt breakfast. He laughed and left. But he came back the next day. And the day after that. By the end of the week, Victor's morning kitchen visits had become routine. More importantly, they'd become a game. Thursday morning, he walked in and immediately opened the industrial fridge. What are you doing? Celia demanded. Getting juice. There's juice in the dining room. I want it from here. He pulled out an expensive bottle of fresh squeezed orange juice, poured himself a glass using a measuring cup because he couldn't find a regular glass, and drank it while maintaining eye contact. Celia dried her hands on her apron, walked over, took the measuring cup from him, poured the rest down the sink. Oops. Victor's eyebrows shot up. Did you just? Kitchen rules. No unauthorized personnel drinking from prep equipment. That measuring cup now needs to be sanitized. She held his gaze. Was it worth it? His eyes glinted with something dangerous and amused. Absolutely. Friday, he tried to steal a croissant straight from the cooling rack. She smacked his hand with a wooden spoon.
Ow.
Don't touch food before it's plated. I sign your paychecks. And I control breakfast. Your move, boss. Saturday, he sat on the counter, the actual counter, where she prepared food, swinging his legs like a kid. Get down. Make me. Celia grabbed a spray bottle of water she used for the herbs and spritzed him directly in the face.
Victor sputtered. Shit.
Water dripped from his hair onto his $2,000 shirt. Behind him, 2 guards looked ready to commit murder. Bernard, delivering morning mail, made the sign of the cross. Then Victor started laughing so hard he nearly fell off the counter. You did not just spray me. You were acting like a cat. I treated you like a cat. Celia returned to her work.
Down. Now.
He got down, still grinning, water still dripping. You're insane. You're in my way. The staff started gathering in nearby hallways during these exchanges. Not close enough to be obvious, but close enough to watch. It was better than television. He's going to kill her, one maid whispered. He's going to marry her, another countered. He's definitely going to do something to her, a guard muttered. Bernard just kept praying. Sunday morning, Victor brought reinforcements. He walked into the kitchen with Rico, clearly trying to prove a point. Rico needs coffee. I told him yours is the best. Rico looked like he'd rather drink poison, but he played along.
Yes. Coffee.
Please. Celia assessed them both. Okay. But you're both sitting at that table. She pointed to a small staff table in the corner. And you're not talking to me while I work. Deal? What if I have questions? Victor asked innocently. Write them down. I'll read them when I'm done. What if they're urgent? Then they're not about coffee. She started grinding beans.
Sit. Stay.
Good boys. Rico's eye twitched. No one had called Victor Salerno a good boy and lived to tell about it. Except Celia just did. And Victor sat. Actually sat at the staff table like an obedient puppy, pulling out a chair for Rico, who looked like he was having an out-of-body experience. They sat in silence while Celia worked, moving through the kitchen with efficient grace. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, just doing her job. But there was something mesmerizing about her confidence, the way she commanded the space. She brought them coffee 5 minutes later. Set the cups down. Victor took a sip. Perfect as always.
Great.
Now leave. The cook needs this space for breakfast service. What if I want to stay for breakfast? Then you eat in the dining room like everyone else. This feels like discrimination. This feels like a boss trying to distract his employee from work. Celia crossed her arms. Tell me, Mr. Salerno, do you hang around your accountant's offices? Your lawyer's meetings? Your whatever else you have people for. That's different.
How?
They're boring. And I'm entertainment. Victor's smile turned into something softer. You're honest. It's refreshing. For just a second, Celia's armor cracked. She saw something real in his eyes. Not the dangerous mafia boss, but a lonely man who'd forgotten what genuine human interaction felt like. Then the moment passed. Flattery doesn't get you extra croissants, she said, but her tone was gentler. Dining room. Both of you. Before I spray you again. Rico stood so fast his chair scraped. I'll be in the car. He fled. Victor stood slowly, still holding his coffee. Same time tomorrow. Don't you have crimes to commit or something? I multitask. He headed for the door, then paused. Celia? What? Your kitchen rules. I like them. He left before she could respond. Celia stood there, wooden spoon in hand, feeling something she absolutely should not be feeling about her employer. Especially one who could make her disappear. God help me, she muttered, and got back to work. It started with the gardener. Marcus Webb had worked the Salerno estate grounds for 6 years. 6 years of saying, yes, sir, keeping his head down, and working whatever hours were demanded without complaint. That's how you survived in Victor's world. Invisible, obedient, grateful. But he'd watched the new maid spray Victor Salerno in the face with water. And he'd watched Victor Salerno laugh. So on Monday afternoon, when Rico told him to stay late and replant the entire rose garden before a meeting the next morning, no overtime pay, naturally, Marcus heard himself say something he'd never said before.
No.
Rico stopped mid-stride.
Turn slowly.
Excuse me? I said no. Marcus's heart was hammering, but he kept going. It's 5 p. and my shift ends at 5. You want evening work, you pay evening rates. That's fair. The garden went silent. 2 other groundskeepers pretended to be very interested in their rakes. Rico's face turned purple. Do you know who you're talking to?
Ido.
And I'm still saying no. Marcus thought of Celia pointing her knife at Victor. You want the roses done tonight. Pay me overtime. Otherwise, I'll do it tomorrow during regular hours. You're fired. Then I'm fired. Marcus started packing his tools. His hands were shaking, but he kept his voice steady. I'll get my final check from payroll. He made it 3 steps before Rico grabbed his arm. Let him go. Everyone turned. Victor stood on the terrace, coffee cup in hand, looking almost bored. He must have been watching the whole thing. Boss, Rico started. He asked for fair pay, for fair work. What's the problem? Victor took a sip of coffee. Marcus, you want overtime rates? Marcus swallowed. Yes, sir.
Fine.
Time and a half. Standard rate. Victor turned to Rico. Make sure payroll knows. And Rico? Next time you need rush work done, you come to me first. We don't bully the staff. He walked back inside. Rico looked like he'd been slapped. Marcus looked like he'd seen God. The story spread through the mansion like wildfire. By Tuesday, the head housekeeper, a woman named Patricia who'd been terrorized by Rico's sister for months, actually knocked on Victor's office door. Bernard tried to stop her. Patricia, don't. You can't just. Watch me, she knocked harder.
Come in.
Patricia entered. Victor was reviewing documents, didn't look up. Mr. Salerno, I need to discuss the cleaning schedule. Talk to Rico. I tried. He ignored me. So I'm talking to you. She pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. This is the schedule Rico's sister made. She has me working doubles 3 times a week with no advance notice. I have a daughter. I need consistent hours, or I can't arrange childcare. Victor finally looked up, studied her face. How long has this been happening? 8 months. And you're just telling me now? Patricia lifted her chin. I was scared. Then I watched you let Marcus negotiate overtime. I watched you get kicked out of your own kitchen by a woman half your size. I figured, maybe things are different now. Something flickered in Victor's eyes. Not anger, something more complicated. Give me that schedule. She handed it over. He scanned it, his jaw tightening. This is garbage. You should have come to me months ago. He grabbed a pen, made quick notes. You want regular hours? Monday through Friday, 8 to 4.
No surprises.
Same pay. Tell Rico's sister if she has a problem, she talks to me. Patricia's eyes went glassy. Thank you, Mr. Salerno. And, Patricia? Anyone else having scheduling problems, send them to Bernard. He'll keep a list. This stops today. She left looking dazed. Victor sat back, rubbing his temples. When had he become the kind of boss who didn't know his own staff was being abused? When had he stopped caring? By Wednesday, the mansion felt different. Staff made eye contact in hallways. Quiet conversations happened in break rooms. Someone actually laughed, out loud in the foyer. And Rico was losing his mind. This has to stop. He cornered Victor in the study, Marco and Tommy flanking him. Do you see what's happening? The staff thinks they can negotiate now. They think they have power. They're asking for basic fairness, Victor said calmly. They're undermining the hierarchy. Your authority. My authority is fine. Is it? Rico slammed his hand on the desk. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like that maid walked in here and turned everything upside down. The staff used to be invisible.
Quiet.
Now they're making demands. They're making requests, Victor corrected. And reasonable ones. She's softening you, Rico said quietly. Dangerously. Can't you see it? Ever since she showed up, you're different. Laughing.
Compromising. Being.
Nice, he said, nice, like it was a terminal disease. Maybe I was being an asshole before. You were being a boss. Rico's voice rose. Fear is what keeps this organization running. Fear is what keeps territories in line, keeps rivals away, keeps. I don't want people scared in my own house, Victor interrupted, his voice hard. My enemies should fear me. My staff should respect me. There's a difference. Since when? Since I had someone treat me like a human being instead of a monster, and I realized how much I missed it, Victor stood, getting in Rico's face. You want to challenge my decisions?
Fine.
But you do it privately, and you do it with respect. Otherwise, you can leave. Rico stepped back, shocked. Victor had never threatened to dismiss him before. They'd been together for 15 years. Boss, I'm just trying to protect. I know. And I appreciate that. But this is my call. The household staff gets treated fairly. That's the new rule. You have a problem with that, you know where the door is. Rico left, stiff with anger.
Marco Lingers.
Boss, the guys are talking.
Some of them think.
They think you're going soft. Let them think what they want. And if rivals hear about this? If they think you're vulnerable? Victor's smile turned cold. The old Victor. The dangerous one. Then they're welcome to try something. And I'll remind everyone exactly who I am. Marco nodded and left. Alone, Victor walked to the window. Down the garden, he could see Celia walking back from the greenhouse, probably getting fresh herbs for dinner. She was singing. He could see her lips moving, completely unaware of the earthquake she'd caused. She'd been here less than 2 weeks and had already revolutionized his household. Victor wasn't sure if that terrified or thrilled him. Possibly both. Celia left work at exactly 2:45 p.m. every day. Victor noticed because he'd started unconsciously tracking her movements, when she arrived, when she took breaks, when she left. Thursday afternoon, he watched from his office window as she hurried out the service entrance, checking her phone anxiously. She wore the same determined expression she had when kicking him out of the kitchen, but underneath it was something else. Worry. Bernard. Victor called. The butler appeared instantly. Yes, sir. Where does Celia go every afternoon? I believe she picks up her son from school, sir. She mentioned needing to leave by 3 when she was hired. She has a son. Yes, sir. 10 years old. The boy is why she took the position. Needed the income and health insurance. Victor processed this. She takes the bus. 2 buses, actually. It's quite a commute. Something twisted in Victor's chest. She spent 2 hours commuting every day, probably left her kid alone in the mornings, all for a job where she'd unknowingly yelled at one of the most dangerous men on the East Coast. Get Marcus to bring the town car around. Have him follow her route. Make sure she gets home safely. Don't make it obvious. Bernard hesitated. Sir, if she notices. Then tell Marcus to be subtle. Victor turned back to his window.
She's staff.
I'm responsible for staff safety. Of course, sir. Bernard left, clearly not buying that explanation for a second. Leo Martinez was having the worst day of his 5th grade year, which was saying something because most of his days at Riverside Preparatory Academy were pretty terrible. Nice sneakers, Goodwill. Leo ignored Brandon Ashford, the richest kid in class whose dad owned half of downtown. He focused on his math worksheet, the one subject where he consistently outscored everyone. I'm talking to you, scholarship boy. Leo's pencil pressed harder against the paper. His mom had explained that some kids would be mean because Leo didn't come from money like they did. She told him to be the bigger person, to focus on his studies, to remember why he was here. But being the bigger person was exhausting. His shoes are from Target, Emma Chin chimed in, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. My mom wouldn't even donate those. At least I earned my spot here, Leo said quietly, still not looking up. I didn't have Daddy buy it. Brandon's face turned red. What did you just say? You heard me. Brandon shoved Leo's desk. Papers scattered. You think you're smart? You're nothing. You don't belong here. Mr. Ashford. The teacher intervened, but the damage was done. Leo gathered his papers with burning cheeks, counting down the minutes until 2:45 when his mom would be waiting outside with her tired smile and her questions about his day that he'd answer with lies. Celia spotted Leo immediately. He had that slumped posture he got when Brandon had been particularly cruel. Her heart squeezed. Hey, baby, she hugged him, and he let her, which meant it had been really bad. How was school?
Fine. Lao.
I don't want to talk about it, Mom. They walked to the bus stop in silence. Celia wanted to march back into that school and give those rich brats a piece of her mind, but she couldn't. Leo needed to stay in this school. The education was exceptional, and the scholarship interview next week could mean full tuition for middle school. They just had to survive until then. On the bus, Leo finally spoke. Mom, what does your new boss do? Celia tensed. Why do you ask? You've been weird about this job. You won't talk about it. I'm not weird. You're totally weird. Leo looked at her with those 2 old eyes. Is he a bad guy?
He's
complicated. That was putting it mildly. But he pays well and the insurance is good. That's what matters. Brandon's dad says there are no honest ways to get rich. Brandon's dad is a hypocrite. Celia pulled Leo closer. Listen to me. People are complicated. Sometimes good people make bad choices. Sometimes bad people have good moments. The world isn't black and white. Which one is your boss? Celia thought about Victor's laugh, his dangerous smile, the way he defended Marcus. I'm still figuring that out. Victor was in his study when Marcus returned, looking uncomfortable. Well? She takes 2 buses, sir. Picks up her kid from Riverside Prep, fancy school, probably on scholarship. They go to a small apartment in Queens. Building's not in a great area. Lock on the front door looks broken. Victor's hands tightened on his desk. Riverside Prep? That's a 40-minute bus ride from here. Plus another 20 to her place, yes, sir. A widow, Bernard had mentioned. A widow with a 10-year-old son, working herself to exhaustion, living in a building with a broken lock, all so her kid could have opportunities she probably never had. And Victor had thrown a tantrum over cold coffee. Tomorrow, have a car ready for her at 2:30. Tell her it's a new staff benefit, transportation for those with children. She'll refuse, sir. Then make it a company policy. Non-negotiable. Victor pulled out his phone, texted his head of security. And get someone to fix that front door lock. Make it look like the landlord finally got around to it. Marcus's lips twitched into an almost smile. Anything else, sir? Find out what scholarship she's applying for. Quietly. Sir? Just do it. After Marcus left, Victor sat alone with his whiskey, thinking about a woman who faced him without fear but probably lay awake every night worrying about making rent. A woman who'd lost a husband. A woman who didn't know Victor had probably crossed paths with every criminal organization in the city at some point. A woman whose past he suddenly, desperately needed to understand. He opened his laptop and typed her full name into the secure database his people maintained. Celia Martinez. Queens, New York. Widow. The file loaded. Victor's blood went cold. Husband. Daniel Martinez. Deceased. Former soldier. Victor's crew. 8 years ago. The botched warehouse operation. The one that still kept Victor up some nights. 3 men dead, including Danny Martinez, young kid, barely 25, new to the organization. Caught in crossfire when a simple pickup turned into an ambush. Victor had sent flowers to the funeral, had authorized a small payout to the widow. He'd never followed up. Never checked if that widow had been left with a baby. Never imagined she'd walk back into his life 8 years later and kick him out of his own kitchen. Oh, Celia, Victor whispered to the empty room. What are you doing here? She knew. She had to know. She'd taken a job working for the man whose operation had gotten her husband killed. The question was, why? Revenge? Unlikely. She'd had a dozen chances to poison him by now. Desperation? More probable. Sometimes survival trumped vengeance. Or maybe, and this thought unsettled him most, maybe she'd made peace with what happened and truly didn't blame him. Victor needed answers. But asking would reveal that he'd been digging into her past. So he'd wait.
Watch.
Protect her from the shadows while he figured out what game she was playing. If she was playing one at all. Friday morning, Victor found Celia in the hallway outside his study, organizing the cleaning supply cart.
Celia.
A word. She looked up, one eyebrow raised. Is this about the coffee? Because I already told you.
No.
I need my office cleaned. She blinked. Okay. I'll add it to the rotation.
Now.
I need it clean now. He opened the door, gestured inside. Personal project. Needs immediate attention. Celia glanced at Bernard, who'd appeared from nowhere looking stricken. The butler made frantic cutting motions across his throat, the universal sign for abort mission. She looked back at Victor, who was watching her with unreadable dark eyes. Your office. Yes. The one everyone whispers about. The one nobody's allowed to enter. That's the one. She grabbed her supply caddy.
Fine.
Move. Victor's mouth twitched. He stepped aside. Behind her, Bernard made a sound like a dying whale. The office was exactly what she expected. All dark wood, leather furniture, and masculine intimidation. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 2 walls. A massive mahogany desk dominated the center. And along the far wall. Is that a gun cabinet? Celia asked. Yes, with actual guns. They're not decorative. Victor settled into his desk chair, clearly planning to watch her work. Problem? Nope. Just confirming I'm cleaning a murder museum. She set down her supplies and pulled out a feather duster. Don't shoot me if I accidentally bump something. I'll try to restrain myself. She started with the bookshelves, methodically working through leather-bound volumes that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Victor watched her like a hawk studying a mouse. Celia refused to be the mouse. She worked her way to the gun cabinet, a beautiful antique piece with glass doors showcasing an array of handguns, rifles, and things she didn't have names for. She opened it without asking. Behind her, Victor went very still. These are filthy, she announced, running her cloth along the shelves. When's the last time someone cleaned in here? No one cleans in here. I can tell. She carefully moved a Glock to dust underneath it. Do these all work? Yes. Ever use them? What do you think? Celia glanced back at him. He was leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled, expression carefully neutral. Testing her. Waiting for fear. I think you're trying to scare me, she said, returning to her dusting. I also think it's not working. Why is that? Because if you wanted me dead, I'd already be dead. She closed the gun cabinet, moved to his desk. You're not subtle, Mr. Salerno. You're about as subtle as a brick. Victor's lips curved. Most people find me terrifying. Most people don't have a 10-year-old son. You know what's terrifying? 5th grade math homework. She started rearranging his desk without asking, moving papers, straightening his pen holder, relocating his laptop to what she clearly deemed a better position. What are you doing? Organizing. This desk is a mess. That's classified paperwork. Then don't leave it lying around. She picked up a sheet, squinted at it. I can't read Italian anyway. Is this a shipping manifest? Put that down. Putting it down, she set it in a neat pile. You really need a filing system. Victor stood, moved around the desk until he was close enough that she had to look up at him. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that made rooms feel smaller. You're not curious? He asked quietly. About what I do? What those papers mean? Nope. Most people would be. Most people don't have enough problems of their own. Celia held his gaze. Your business is your business. I just work here. He studied her face, searching for something. You're not afraid of me. Should I be? Everyone else is. Everyone else isn't me. She moved past him, deliberately breaking the tension, and headed for the bar cart in the corner. The crystal decanters filled with amber liquid caught the light. She picked one up, sniffed it, wrinkled her nose. Oh my God, what is this? Floor cleaner? Victor's jaw dropped. That's a 50-year-old scotch. It costs $3,000 a bottle. Then you got scammed. She set it down, picked up another. This one smells like a hospital. Do you actually drink this stuff or just collect it to look impressive? I drink it.
Why?
To punish yourself. She moved to the next decanter. Okay, this one's not terrible. What is it? Irish whiskey. 25 years. See, this is drinkable. She set it down. The rest is just expensive garbage. Victor stared at her. This woman, this maddening, impossible woman, had just insulted his taste in liquor, reorganized his desk, casually handled his firearms, and dismissed his entire intimidating aesthetic as not subtle. And she was completely, utterly sincere. Celia. What? Why did you take this job? The question clearly caught her off guard. Her hand paused on the whiskey decanter. I needed the money. I told you that. You knew who I was before you applied. It wasn't a question. Her shoulders tensed slightly, the first real sign of discomfort he'd seen. I knew the name, she admitted quietly. Didn't know the face until that first morning. But you knew the reputation. Everyone knows the reputation. She turned to face him fully. I also knew you pay 3 times what normal housekeeping jobs pay, and you offer health insurance. My son has asthma. Do you know what inhalers cost without insurance? So, this is just about survival. This is about being a mother. Her voice hardened. I don't have the luxury of moral high ground, Mr. Salerno. I don't get to pick and choose who I work for based on whether they're nice people. I pick based on who can keep my kid alive and in school. The honesty was brutal, refreshing. And the fact that I'm a criminal doesn't bother you? Celia grabbed her cleaning supplies. You want absolution from your maid? Go to church. You want your office cleaned? That'll be done in 10 minutes. You want me to judge your life choices? Get a therapist. She headed for the door. Celia. She stopped but didn't turn. You're not what I expected, Victor said softly.
Yeah, well.
You're exactly what I expected. She glanced back, something complicated in her expression. A man who thinks fear and respect are the same thing. They're not. She left. Victor stood in his reorganized office, surrounded by his floor cleaner, scotch, and his carefully curated intimidation, and realized something fundamental. Celia Martinez wasn't playing a game. She wasn't pretending to be brave. She wasn't trying to impress or manipulate him. She was just herself, exhausted, honest, doing what she had to do to survive. And somehow, that was more dangerous than any scheme she could have plotted. Because it made him want to protect her. And wanting things, wanting people was how men like Victor got destroyed. The Rusty Anchor wasn't the kind of bar that appeared in tourist guides. Tucked into a forgotten corner of Brooklyn, it catered to a specific clientele, men who did business in shadows and settled disputes with violence. Enzo DeLuca sat in the back booth, nursing his third bourbon, listening to his lieutenant Tommy, Two Fingers Greco, tell the story for the third time. I'm telling you, boss, it's true. My cousin works security at the Salerno estate. He saw it himself. This maid, 5'0", nobody special. She kicked Victor out of his own kitchen. Told him to leave. Called him an overgrown toddler. Enzo's weathered face remained impassive, but his eyes glittered. And Victor did what?
Laughed.
Actually laughed. Then left like she'd given him an order. Tommy leaned in. That's not even the best part. She's been there 2 weeks now. Staff is getting bold. Demanding overtime pay, regular schedules. The gardener actually told Rico Castellano no to his face, and Victor backed the gardener. Victor backed the help over his own consigliere. Swear on my mother's grave. Enzo set down his glass carefully. He'd been in this business 40 years, long enough to recognize a crack in armor when he saw one. Victor Salerno had controlled the East Coast ports for a decade through sheer ruthlessness. The man was a ghost story that rival organizations told to keep their soldiers in line. You didn't challenge Victor. You didn't even look at Victor wrong. But a man who let staff disrespect him? That was a man who'd lost his edge. Tell me about this, Maid. Tommy pulled out his phone, showed a grainy photo, looked like a security camera capture. A woman with dark hair pulled back, simple clothes, unremarkable except for the fire in her eyes as she pointed at something off-camera. Celia Martinez. Widow, 1 kid. Lives in Queens. Takes 2 buses to work every day. Widow of who? Danny Martinez. Low-level soldier, who died in that warehouse mess 8 years back. One of Victor's operations that went sideways. Enzo's eyebrows rose. She's working for the man who got her husband killed. Apparently, this was better than Enzo had dared hope. Not just a crack in Victor's armor, a possible infiltrator already inside. You think she's playing an angle? Enzo asked.
Nah.
Word is she's just broke. Needs the money, Tommy shrugged. But here's the thing, Victor's different around her.
Softer.
My cousin says he watches her leave every day. Had his driver start taking her home for safety. He's protecting her. He's attached to her. Looks like it. Enzo smiled slowly. In this business, attachments were weaknesses. And weaknesses could be exploited. I want everything on Celia Martinez. Where she lives, where the kid goes to school, her routine, her vulnerabilities. Everything. You thinking what I think you're thinking? Victor's built his reputation on being untouchable, unknowable, but a man protecting someone. Enzo tapped his glass. That's a man with something to lose. And when the East Coast sees that Victor Salerno can be hurt through a maid, when they see he's gone soft, his territories become vulnerable. You want to move on his operations?
Not yet.
First, we test the waters. We prove he's compromised. Enzo's smile turned cold. We prove the legend is just a man. 3 miles away, in a small apartment in Queens, Celia helped Leo with his homework while mentally calculating whether she could afford new sneakers for him this month. The ones he had were developing holes. Mom, you're not paying attention. Sorry, baby. What was the question? If a train leaves Chicago at 60 miles per hour. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Carl will pick you up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Company policy. Don't argue.
There.
Despite everything, she smiled. The man communicated through commands even in text messages. She typed back, "I can take the bus." His reply was instant. "You can. But you won't. See you tomorrow." "Who's that?" Leo asked, trying to peek. "My boss."
He's
Persistent. "Is he nice?" Celia thought about Victor's dangerous smile, his gun cabinet, the way his entire household flinched at his presence. She thought about him laughing in her kitchen, defending Marcus, reorganizing his world to accommodate her schedule. "He's complicated," she said finally. "Like I told you before. You talk about him a lot." "I do not." "You totally do. Mr. Salerno this, Mr. Salerno that." Leo mimicked her voice, grinning. "Finish your homework. Are you friends with him?"
no.
"He's my boss." "But you like him."
Leo.
"You smile when you talk about him. You never smile about anything work-related." Celia opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. When had her 10-year-old become so observant? "It's not like that," she said quietly. He lives in a different world than us. A dangerous world. We work together. That's all." Okay, Leo didn't sound convinced, but he went back to his math. Celia stared at her phone, at Victor's text, and felt something twist in her chest. She couldn't afford to like Victor Salerno. Couldn't afford to see him as anything other than a paycheck. Because men like him, men who lived by violence, they destroyed everything they touched eventually. She'd already lost one person to that world. She couldn't lose herself to it too. Back at the Rusty Anchor, Enzo's phone rang. He answered without greeting. "It's done," a nervous voice said. "I got access to the staff schedule. The maid drops her kid at Riverside Prep every morning at 8:15. Picks him up at 2:45. Like clockwork."
Good.
"How much?" "You said 10 grand. You'll get 15 if you keep feeding the information. Can you do that?" A pause. "If Rico finds out I'm talking to you." "Rico won't find out. This stays between us." Enzo's voice turned hard. "Unless you get cold feet. Then everyone finds out. Understand?"
Yeah.
"Yeah, I understand." "Then we're in business." Enzo hung up and smiled at Tommy. "Get our people ready. I want eyes on the kids' school starting Monday. Routine surveillance only, no moves yet. Just watch and learn." "You're really doing this? Going after Victor's maid?" "I'm not going after her." Enzo finished his bourbon. "I'm proving a point. The great Victor Salerno has a weakness. And once the other families see that, once they see him scramble to protect some nobody." He didn't finish the sentence.
Didn't need to.
In their world, perceived weakness was actual weakness. And actual weakness meant territories changed hands, power structures collapsed, empires fell. Victor Salerno had ruled through fear for a decade. Time to see how he ruled through love. Monday evening, Celia was finishing the dinner cleanup when Rico Castellano walked into her kitchen. Not Victor's friendly morning visits. This was different. Rico moved like a predator, all sharp angles and barely contained rage. Two of his men flanked him, silent, threatening presences in expensive suits. The junior cook who'd been helping Celia immediately found an excuse to vanish. "Ms. Martinez," Rico's voice was cold. "We need to talk." Celia didn't stop scrubbing the pot she was working on. "I'm listening. Look at me when I'm speaking to you." She set down the pot, turned slowly, met his eyes with the same unbothered expression she'd given Victor 2 weeks ago. "Better?" Rico's jaw clenched. "Do you know what you've done? Made dinner? Cleaned the kitchen?"
My job.
"Don't play stupid." He stepped closer. "Since you arrived, this household has fallen apart. Staff making demands, questioning orders, disrespecting authority. Asking for fair treatment isn't disrespecting authority. It is when they forget their place." Rico's voice rose. "We have an order here. A hierarchy. Victor at the top, then his lieutenants, then everyone else. That system works because everyone knows where they stand." Celia crossed her arms. "Sounds like a system that works great for you. It works for everyone. It keeps things stable. It keeps people scared, Celia corrected. There's a difference. Rico took another step forward. He was trying to intimidate her with his physical presence, a tactic that probably worked on most people. Celia had faced down an angry mafia boss over cold coffee. She'd raised a strong-willed 10-year-old through the terrible twos. Rico Castellano didn't even crack her top 10 most intimidating encounters. You need to understand something, Rico said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Victor may find your little act charming, but I see through it. You're chaos. You're disruption. And if you don't start showing proper respect. Respect is earned, not demanded. Excuse me? You heard me, Celia's voice stayed calm, almost conversational. You want me to respect you? Try asking nicely instead of storming into my kitchen making threats. Try treating staff like human beings instead of furniture. Try. This isn't your kitchen. Actually, it is. Check the staff assignments. Victor put me in charge of kitchen operations. Which means you, she pointed at the door, need to leave. The two guards shifted uncomfortably. Rico's face turned an unhealthy shade of purple. You're firing me? From a kitchen? I'm asking you politely to leave my workspace.
See?
That's how respect works. I demonstrated it. Your turn. Do you have any idea who you're talking to?
Rico Castellano, consigliere.
Victor's right hand. Known for being ruthless, efficient, and, according to kitchen gossip, having a sister who terrorizes the housekeeping staff, Celia picked up her scrub brush. Did I miss anything? You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make in my kitchen. She went back to scrubbing.
Doors that way.
Feel free to use it. For a long moment, Rico just stared. He wasn't used to this. People standing up to him, dismissing him, treating him like he was the problem instead of the solution. Victor's protecting you now, he said quietly. But that won't last forever. And when it ends. Is that a threat? It's a fact. People who disrupt the natural order don't last long in this world. Good thing I'm just trying to clean a kitchen then. Celia finally looked at him again. Are we done? Because this pot isn't going to scrub itself, and unlike some people, I have actual work to do. Rico's hands clenched into fists. For a second, Celia wondered if she'd pushed too far. Then he spun on his heel and stormed out, his guards following. The moment they were gone, Patricia emerged from the pantry where she'd been hiding. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God, Celia, you can't. That was Rico. I know who it was. He could have. He's killed people for less. He's not going to kill me in Victor's kitchen. Celia hoped that was true. He was trying to scare me, bully me into backing down. And you kicked him out like a stray dog. Patricia started laughing, quiet, slightly hysterical laughter. You treated Rico Castellano like a stray dog. From the hallway, Celia heard whispers, realized at least half a dozen staff members had been listening. Someone started clapping, slowly at first, then others joined in. Bernard appeared in the doorway, looking torn between pride and absolute terror. Celia, that was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever witnessed. Probably stupid, Celia admitted. But I meant what I said. He doesn't get to come in here throwing his weight around. You know he's going to retaliate. Let him try. She went back to her dishes, ignoring the trembling in her hands. I've got pots to scrub. The staff slowly dispersed, but Celia could feel something had shifted. They weren't just watching anymore. They were choosing sides. In Victor's study, Rico burst in without knocking. She has to go.
Today.
Right now. Victor looked up from his paperwork.
Who?
You know exactly who. That maid just kicked me out of the kitchen.
Me.
She treated me like she treats me? Victor's lips twitched. This isn't funny. She's undermining everything we've built. The staff thinks they can challenge us now. They think they have power. They think they have basic rights. That's not the same thing. It leads to the same place, chaos. Rico slammed his hands on the desk. You need to fire her. Make an example. Show everyone that insubordination has consequences.
No.
Victor. She stays, Rico. I've told you this, Victor's voice hardened. And before you argue, let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually listened to what staff needed? When was the last time you treated them like people instead of tools? They are tools. That's the point. They serve us. We pay them. Everyone knows their role. And you wonder why they're unhappy, Victor stood. Maybe Celia's right. Maybe respect needs to be earned. Rico stepped back like he'd been slapped. She's changing you. Can't you see it? The woman shows up and suddenly you're questioning everything, soft on staff, letting people talk back. I'm questioning whether fear is the only way to lead. It's the best way to lead. It's kept you alive, kept our operations running, kept rivals in check for 10 years. And it's made my own home feel like a prison. Victor moved to the window. Down in the garden, he could see Celia leaving through the service entrance, probably heading to her car, the one he'd arranged for her. She's not changing me, Rico. She's reminding me I'm human. In our world, that's a weakness. Maybe. Or maybe it's the only thing that keeps us from becoming monsters. Victor turned back to his consigliera.
She stays.
That's final. And if you go near her again trying to intimidate her, we're going to have a problem. Rico's eyes widened. You're choosing her over me? I'm choosing to run my household the way I see fit. You have a problem with that. There's the door. For the second time that day, Rico Castellano was dismissed from a room. He left rigid with fury, already planning his next move. If Victor wouldn't see reason, maybe he needed a reminder of what happened when you let sentiment cloud judgment. Maybe he needed to see exactly what kind of danger Celia Martinez represented. Tuesday at 2:43 p.m., Leo Martinez walked out of Riverside Preparatory Academy with his math homework tucked under his arm and absolutely no idea that 3 men in a black SUV had been watching him for the past hour. Marcus, Victor's driver, sat in the town car 50 yards away, engine idling, checking his watch. Ms. Martinez had texted that she'd be 2 minutes late. Heavy traffic on the expressway. Leo stood under the school's front awning, waiting. Other kids streamed past him toward expensive cars driven by nannies and parents. Brandon Ashford made a point of bumping Leo's shoulder on the way to his mom's Range Rover. See you tomorrow, scholarship boy. Leo ignored him, pulling out his phone to text his mom that he was waiting. He didn't notice the black SUV pulling up to the curb. But Marcus did. Something was wrong. The vehicle stopped too close to Leo. Wrong angle. Wrong body language from the driver. Marcus's hand moved to the gun in his shoulder holster. The SUV's back door opened. Leo Martinez? A man in a dark jacket stepped out, smiling like a friendly uncle. Your mom asked me to pick you up. Traffic's bad. She's running late. Leo frowned. My mom didn't. She texted me. Come on, kid, let's go. She's worried. Marcus was already out of the car, moving fast. Leo took a step back. I don't know you, smart kid. The man's smile turned cold. But we're doing this the easy way or the hard way. He lunged. Leo screamed. Marcus pulled his gun. Back off. Everything happened at once. 2 more men jumped from the SUV. One pulled a weapon. Parents screamed, grabbing their children. The school's security guard fumbled for his radio. Marcus fired a warning shot into the air. Get away from the kid. The first man had Leo by the arm. Leo twisted, bit down hard on the man's hand. Little bastard. Marcus tackled the man, both of them crashing to the pavement. Leo broke free, ran toward the school entrance. The second man caught him. Got him. Go, go, go. They dragged Leo toward the SUV. He fought, kicking, scratching, screaming, but he was 10 years old, and they were grown men. Then 3 black sedans screeched into the school driveway. Victor's security team poured out, 6 men, heavily armed, moving with military precision. Drop him. The kidnappers hesitated for exactly 2 seconds. Then they shoved Leo toward the school doors and ran for their SUV. Gunshots cracked through the afternoon air. The SUV's tires squealed as it tore out of the parking lot, one window shattering from return fire. Victor's men gave chase in 2 of the sedans, but the priority was securing the kid. Leo sat on the concrete, shaking, while a guard checked him for injuries. Marcus had a split lip and murder in his eyes. Get him to the car.
Now.
Call Victor. Celia's phone rang while she was still stuck in traffic. Hello. Ms. Martinez, it was Marcus, his voice tight. Your son is safe. But there was an incident at his school. I'm bringing him to the estate now. Her entire world tilted. What kind of incident? Men tried to take him. We stopped them. He's not hurt, but… What? The word came out as a scream. Someone tried to kidnap my son? We have him. He's safe. Victor wants you to meet us at the estate. I'm coming to the school. The school's on lockdown. Police are there. Ms. Martinez, please come to the estate. Leo's asking for you. The call ended. Celia sat in gridlocked traffic, her hands shaking so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel. Someone had tried to take her baby. Someone had put their hands on Leo. Because of her. Because she worked for Victor Salerno. The fear crystallized into something else. Rage. She walked into Victor's mansion 40 minutes later, like a hurricane. Staff scattered. Bernard tried to intercept her. Ms. Martinez, Leo's in the kitchen with. She shoved past him. Leo was sitting at the kitchen table, wrapped in a blanket, drinking hot chocolate. He looked small, scared, but alive. Mom. She grabbed him, held him so tight he wheezed. Checked him over with shaking hands. No injuries, no blood. Just fear in his eyes that no 10-year-old should have. I'm okay, he whispered.
Mom, I'm okay.
Marcus saved me. Where is he? Her voice was ice. Where's Salerno? Celia, Bernard started. Where is he? His office. She stormed out, leaving Leo with Patricia and Bernard. Took the stairs 2 at a time. Burst through Victor's office door without knocking. Victor was on the phone, surrounded by his lieutenants. They all turned, startled. She didn't care. You, she pointed at Victor. Outside.
Now.
Celia, I'm in the middle of. I don't care what you're in the middle of. Her voice cracked. Someone just tried to kidnap my son.
My son.
Because of you. The room went silent. Victor set down his phone slowly. Everyone out. Boss, Rico started.
Out.
The lieutenants fled like their lives depended on it. When the door closed, Celia let loose. You said working here was safe. You said staff was protected. But your world followed me home and put my baby in danger. Tears streamed down her face, fury and fear mixing. He's 10 years old, Victor. They grabbed him at school. I know. No, you don't know. You don't have kids. You don't understand what it's like to get a phone call saying someone tried to take the only thing in this world that matters. She was shaking. I should never have taken this job. I should never have. Stop, Victor moved toward her, hands raised. Celia, stop. Breathe. Don't tell me to breathe. Then listen, his voice was hard. This wasn't random. This was Enzo De Luca, a rival trying to get to me through you. My men are already hunting him down. He made a mistake attacking someone under my protection. Under your protection? Celia laughed bitterly. They got within 5 feet of my son. And my men stopped them. Marcus took a beating to keep Leo safe. I have 6 guys in the hospital and another 10 tracking that SUV across 3 states. Victor's eyes blazed. No one touches what's mine and walks away. I'm not yours. Leo's not yours. We're just… You're more than staff, the words came out rough.
Raw.
You've been more than staff since the moment you kicked me out of that kitchen. Celia froze. Stared at him. You can't say things like that, she whispered. Why not? Because men like you destroy everything they care about, her voice broke. My husband died in your world, Victor. I can't. I won't let Leo. That's not going to happen. You can't promise that. Watch me. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. Enzo De Luca just signed his death warrant. By tomorrow morning, he'll know what happens when someone threatens my people. And Leo will have round-the-clock protection until this is resolved. I should quit. Take Leo and leave. Go somewhere you people can't find us. You could, Victor's voice softened. Or, you could let me fix this. Let me protect you both properly. Celia wanted to run. Wanted to grab Leo and disappear. But she'd tried running from poverty, from grief, from fear. Running never worked. If anything happens to him, she started. It won't. If it does, I'll kill you myself. Victor's lips twitched despite everything. I believe you. She left without another word, returning to Leo. Victor stood alone in his office, making a decision. Enzo DeLuca had made this personal. Time to remind everyone why you didn't touch Victor, Salerno's world. That night, Victor couldn't sleep. Leo was safe in one of the guest rooms, Celia in another. Guards patrolled every entrance. His security team was executing a coordinated manhunt across 3 states. But Victor sat in his office at 2 a.m., staring at a file he'd opened hours ago and couldn't stop reading. Daniel Martinez, age 25 at time of death. Married to Celia Rodriguez Martinez. One son, Leo, age 2. The warehouse operation had been straightforward: pick up a weapons shipment, transport it to a secure location. Simple. Routine. Except someone had tipped off the feds. They'd walked into an ambush. 3 men died in the crossfire before Victor's crew could extract. Danny Martinez had taken 2 bullets to the chest, covering their retreat. Victor had called him a hero at the funeral. Had handed Celia an envelope with $50,000 and a promise that his family would be taken care of. Then Victor had moved on to the next crisis, the next operation, the next war. He'd never followed up. Never checked if that promise had been kept. Never wondered about the widow with the toddler. 8 years later, she'd walked into his kitchen and kicked him out. She'd known. All along, she'd known exactly who he was. The question that kept Victor awake was simple and impossible. Why? Revenge? She'd had a dozen chances to poison his food, tamper with his medication, slip information to his enemies. Desperation? More likely. But taking a job with the man responsible for your husband's death required a special kind of desperation, or forgiveness Victor wasn't sure he'd earned. At 3 a.m., he heard footsteps in the hallway. Celia appeared in his doorway, wearing borrowed sleep clothes, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked younger. Vulnerable. Couldn't sleep either? She asked. No, he closed the file. Too late. She'd already seen her own name on the folder. Her expression didn't change. So you finally figured it out. How long have you known who I was? Since before I applied for the job. She walked in, settled into the chair across from his desk like they were discussing the weather. I knew your name, your reputation, what you did. And you came to work for me anyway. I did. Why? Victor's voice was raw. Your husband died in my operation. I got him killed. Why would you? You didn't get him killed. Celia's voice was steady.
Come.
Danny made choices. He knew the risks when he joined your crew. He knew what world he was entering. That doesn't make it okay.
No.
It doesn't. She looked at him directly. But it makes it his responsibility, not just yours. Victor stood, paced to the window. I should have followed up. Should have made sure you were taken care of. I gave you money at the funeral and just forgot. You didn't forget. You moved on. That's what people like you do. No accusation in her voice. Just fact. The $50,000 helped. Covered the funeral, gave me time to figure out my next move. But money runs out, Victor. Especially with a kid. So you took a job with me out of desperation. I took a job that paid 3 times the market rate and offered health insurance my son desperately needed. She leaned back. Was I supposed to let Leo suffer because of pride? Because of anger at a man I'd never met? Most people would. Most people have the luxury of choices. I don't. Celia's eyes never wavered. You want me to hate you?
Fine.
I'll hate you on my own time. But when I'm standing in your kitchen making your coffee, I'm just doing my job. How can you separate it like that? Practice. Necessity. She stood, moved to stand beside him at the window. You think you're the first powerful man I've had to swallow my feelings around? I've smiled at landlords who gouged my rent. Thanked teachers who looked down on my son for being poor. Worked for managers who sexually harassed me because I needed the paycheck. Victor's jaw clenched. Did anyone hear?
No.
Your staff is professional. That's not the point, she turned to face him. The point is I survive, Victor. That's what I do. I put Leo first and I survive. Your guilt doesn't change my rent. Your remorse doesn't pay for inhalers. So yes, I took a job with the man whose operation got my husband killed. Because that man pays well. The honesty was brutal. Beautiful. You're not afraid of me, Victor said quietly. Not because you don't know what I am, but because you've already lost everything that matters once. What else can I do to you? Exactly. Celia's smile was sad. You don't scare me, Victor. You're just a man who eats in my kitchen. A man who throws tantrums over cold coffee. A man who, despite everything, seems lonely. I'm a killer.
Probably.
But you're also the guy who defended his gardener's right to overtime pay. Who arranged a car service, so I wouldn't take 2 buses. Who's currently losing sleep over whether you failed my husband 8 years ago. She reached out, touched his arm lightly. You're complicated.
I told Leo that.
I didn't lie. Victor looked at her hand on his arm. Such a simple touch. When was the last time someone had touched him without fear or calculation? Celia, Don't, she pulled her hand back. Don't apologize for Danny. He made his choices. Don't promise to protect me. You've already proven you will, even though it makes you a target. And definitely don't tell me how you feel about me, because we both know where this is going and neither of us can afford it. Where is it going? She met his eyes, and for the first time, he saw her armor crack completely. Saw fear and want and resignation. Somewhere dangerous, she whispered. For both of us. I don't care. You should. Men like you don't get happy endings, Victor. And women like me can't afford to bet on fairy tales. She headed for the door. Get some sleep. Tomorrow you're going after Enzo, and I need to figure out what to do about Leo's school. Celia. She stopped but didn't turn. Thank you, Victor said, for telling me the truth. For not lying about why you're here. I'm here because you pay well and my son needs insurance, she said firmly. That's the truth. The rest is just complications. She left. Victor stood alone in his office, surrounded by files documenting his crimes, and one folder about a woman who saw through all his armor to the lonely man underneath. He'd spent 10 years building a reputation on fear. And Celia Martinez had dismantled it in 2 weeks by treating him like a human being. The realization should have terrified him. Instead, for the first time in years, Victor Salerno felt something close to hope. Even if he knew, like Celia did, that their story probably didn't have a happy ending. Men like him never did. Word spread fast in their world. By Wednesday afternoon, every family from Boston to Baltimore had heard the story. Victor Salerno's maid kicked him out of his own kitchen. Victor Salerno let staff negotiate. Victor Salerno had gone soft over some nobody widow. Enzo DeLuca made sure of it. He told the story in every bar, every backroom, every meeting. Embellished it. The great Victor Salerno, tamed by a maid. Domesticated. Neutered. The other bosses laughed. Some nervously. Victor's reputation still carried weight. But others laughed with genuine amusement. A crack had formed in the legend. Enzo was preparing to exploit it when his phone rang. DeLuca, Victor's voice was ice. We need to talk.
Salerno.
Heard you've been busy playing house. Heard you tried to kidnap a 10-year-old boy. That's low, even for you. Don't know what you're talking about, Enzo smiled at his lieutenants. But I'm hearing interesting stories about you. About how you've lost your edge. Then let's settle this. You and me. Neutral ground. Why would I do that when I can just wait for you to collapse from within? Because I'm offering you a chance to walk away with your operations intact. Victor's voice hardened. Or you can refuse, and I'll dismantle everything you've built piece by piece. Your choice. Enzo considered. Victor sounded confident, but then again, he always did. And if Victor was desperate enough to offer a meeting, maybe the rumors were true. Maybe he was vulnerable. The old warehouse on Pier 9. Tomorrow noon. You, me, and 2 men each. Done. The call ended. Enzo looked at Tommy. Get everyone ready. Victor wants a meeting? We'll give him a funeral. Thursday morning, Celia found Victor in his office, loading guns. You're going after him. Yes. And you're probably walking into a trap.
Victor smiled.
Definitely walking into a trap. Then why go? Because Enzo needs to believe I'm desperate. Weakened. It's the only way he'll get careless. He holstered a pistol. He'll bring more men than agreed. He'll try to kill me in what looks like a fair fight. And when he does, my team will be ready. You're using yourself as bait. I'm using his arrogance against him. Victor checked his watch. I need you to do something for me. If you're about to ask me to stay here safe while you go get killed, I need you to make a delivery. Celia blinked. What? Enzo's expecting a confrontation. Violence. What he's not expecting is a complication, something that disrupts his focus for just a few seconds. Victor pulled out a folder. This is a catering order for Pier 9. Your company, the mansion, is delivering lunch to a construction crew allegedly working there. Routine delivery. Nothing suspicious. You want me to deliver sandwiches to your shootout. I want you to walk in at exactly 12:15, announce you're there with a catering delivery, and act confused about why there are men with guns. He met her eyes. Enzo's never seen you in person. His men will hesitate, can't shoot a civilian caterer in broad daylight with witnesses around. That 3-second hesitation is all my team needs. This is insane. Completely. I could get killed. You'll have a wire and 6 of my best men in position. If anything goes wrong, you drop the food and run. They'll extract you. Celia stared at him. You're asking me to voluntarily walk into a Mafia confrontation. I'm asking if you trust me to keep you safe. She should say no. Should refuse. Should tell him to find another way. Instead, she thought about Leo's scared face. About Enzo's men grabbing her son. About how many other people Enzo would hurt if Victor didn't stop him. What time do I need to be there? Victor's expression shifted. Surprise, admiration, concern all at once. Celia. You're not the only one who can be brave and stupid. She took the folder. 12:15, Pier 9. I'm a confused caterer. Got it. The warehouse was exactly what Celia expected. Concrete, rusted metal, dramatic shafts of light through broken windows. Very cinematic for a murder. Victor stood in the center with Marcus and another guard. Across from them, Enzo De Luca, older, weathered, dangerous, had 8 men instead of 2. You brought extra, Victor observed. You brought a reputation for being soft. Wanted to make sure it wasn't contagious. Enzo smiled. So, the great Victor Salerno wants to negotiate? I want you to leave my operations alone. Stay out of my territories. In exchange, I won't destroy yours.
Generous.
But I'm thinking maybe I'd just take your territories. You're not what you used to be, Victor. Everyone knows it. A maid has you wrapped around her finger. Excuse me? Both groups turned. Celia stood in the doorway, holding 2 large catering bags, looking utterly bewildered. I'm looking for the construction foreman. Someone ordered lunch for 15. She looked around at the armed men. Am I in the wrong place? Enzo's men froze, confused. Guns lowered slightly. Nobody wanted a civilian witness. Lady, you need to leave, one of them said. But I have your order.
Now.
Okay, geez, no tip for you. In that 3-second distraction, Victor's hidden team moved. Windows shattered as 6 men rappelled in from the roof. Doors burst open as 4 more came from the sides. Enzo's crew spun, but too late. They were surrounded, outgunned, outmaneuvered. Drop your weapons, Victor said calmly, or this gets messy. Celia, meanwhile, had dropped her catering bags and was already halfway out the door, moving exactly like Victor had instructed. The standoff lasted 5 seconds. Then Enzo's men started dropping guns. You set me up, Enzo snarled. You tried to kidnap a child, Victor stepped forward. You spread lies about me being soft.
Weak.
And you know what? I let you. Because I knew your arrogance would bring you here. You're still soft.
I'm strategic.
There's a difference. Victor's smile was razor sharp. You're finished, Enzo. Your operations are being seized as we speak. Your assets frozen. Your men arrested. The families have already been notified that DeLuca territories are now neutral ground. You can't. I already did. The only question is whether you walk away with your life. Victor leaned in close. So, here's what happens. You retire. Move to Florida. Play golf. And if I ever hear your name associated with my city again, I won't be soft. I won't be strategic. I'll just be what you expected, a monster. Enzo's face was purple with rage, but he was beaten, and he knew it. Victor's men escorted them out. 30 minutes later, Victor walked back into his mansion kitchen. Celia was calmly rolling out dough for bread, flour dusting her arms, completely unbothered. She didn't look up. How'd it go? You were perfect. Enzo never saw it coming. Good, she kept rolling. You're welcome, by the way. Victor laughed. That surprised, genuine laugh she'd first heard weeks ago. You walk into an armed standoff and now you're baking? Stress baking. It's therapeutic. She finally met his eyes. You're insane, Victor Salerno. You helped me orchestrate a tactical takedown using sandwich bags. You're insane too. We're perfect for each other then. The words hung in the air. Neither of them acknowledged what she'd just said. 3 weeks later, the mansion felt like a different world. Dawn light filtered through the dining hall windows. Staff moved through the hallways without that perpetual tension in their shoulders. Someone was humming in the foyer, actually humming, a sound that would have been unthinkable a month ago. In the kitchen, Celia supervised breakfast prep while Patricia cracked jokes with the junior cook. Laughter echoed off the marble countertops. Your coffee, boss. Bernard delivered Victor's morning cup with significantly less terror than before. Ms. Martinez says if it's not hot enough this time, you can make your own. Victor, reviewing documents at the dining table, smiled. Tell Ms. Martinez her coffee is perfect as always. Tell him yourself. Celia called from the kitchen. I'm not deaf. Bernard's eyes widened, waiting for the explosion that never came. Victor just laughed. Rico, sitting across from Victor, looked like he'd aged 5 years in 3 weeks. Boss, the shipment from Newark. Approved. Move it through the usual channels. And the situation with the Marino family wanting to negotiate. Set up a meeting. But not here. Victor glanced toward the kitchen. I keep business out of the house now. Rico's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He'd learned to adjust. Barely. The household staff had rights now, fair schedules, overtime pay, respect. The change had been Rocky's personal nightmare, but even he couldn't argue with the results. Turnover had dropped to 0. Efficiency had increased. The mansion ran smoother than it had in years. And Victor's reputation? If anything, it had grown more fearsome. The Enzo DeLuca takedown had sent a message. Victor Salerno wasn't soft. He was smart enough to recognize when fear was useful and when humanity worked better. His enemies still trembled at his name. His staff just called him boss, without the existential dread. At 6:30 a.m., Celia emerged from the kitchen carrying fresh pastries. She set the basket on the dining table, deliberately within Victor's reach. Croissants. Still warm. Don't eat them all before the meeting. No promises. Victor grabbed one immediately. I wasn't asking. She moved to take the basket away. He held it hostage. My table. My croissants. My kitchen. My rules. They locked eyes, a familiar dance of challenge and amusement. Rico made a noise of disgust and left the table entirely. Celia won the croissant battle by simply walking away. Eat them all. See if I care. I'll just make you a sad salad for lunch. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Marcus, standing guard by the door, hid a smile. At 7 a.m., Leo arrived with his school bag, now driven to the mansion every morning by Victor's driver. It was safer, and the private security detail that shadowed him had become part of the new normal. Morning, Mr. Salerno. Leo bounced into the dining room, completely unafraid. Morning, kid. Math homework done.
Yep.
Got a hippie plus on my test.
Nice.
Your mom know. She will when she sees my backpack. Leo grabbed a croissant. Are these the fancy ones? Everything here is fancy, Celia said, appearing with Leo's lunch bag. And you're going to be late. Car's waiting. Leo hugged her goodbye, that tight squeeze she desperately needed 3 weeks ago when she'd almost lost him. Now, it was just routine. Normal.
Safe.
Bye, Mr. Salerno. Stay out of trouble, kid. No promises. He left with Marcus, who'd become his unofficial bodyguard and surprising friend. Alone in the dining hall, staff having dispersed to their duties, Victor and Celia stood on opposite sides of the table. He's a good kid, Victor said quietly.
He is.
Thanks to you, he's still alive. Thanks to both of us, Victor stood, moved around the table. Celia, we need to talk. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Victor, she backed up a step. We've been over this. I work here. You're my boss. That's all this can be. Is it? It has to be, but her voice wavered. You're a dangerous man in a dangerous world. I have a son to protect. We can't. I'm not asking you to marry me, though the thought had crossed his mind more than once. I'm asking if you ever feel what I feel. When we're in the same room, when you're deliberately annoying me just to see if I'll laugh. Celia's defenses cracked. Every single day. Then why? Because I'm scared the admission came out raw. Not of you. Of this. Of caring about someone in your world again. Of losing again. She met his eyes. I've already buried one person I loved because of this life. I can't do it twice. Victor moved closer, stopped just short of touching her. I can't promise safety. I can't promise forever. But I can promise that right here, right now, you and Leo are the most protected people on the East Coast. And that every morning I wake up, the first thing I think about is whether you're going to kick me out of your kitchen again. Despite everything, Celia smiled. You're such a disaster. I'm your disaster. Presumptive. He kissed her. Quick, soft, a question more than a demand. She didn't pull away, didn't slap him, just stood there for a moment after, eyes closed, processing. This is a terrible idea, she whispered. Completely. I'm still not quitting my job. Wouldn't dream of asking. And if you ever throw another tantrum over cold coffee, you'll kick me out of the kitchen. I know, he smiled. I'm counting on it. She opened her eyes and Victor saw everything there. Fear and want, resignation and hope, past grief and possible future joy all tangled together. We're taking this slow, she said firmly. Glacially slow. And you're still sleeping in your own wing. For now. And if Rico gives me any trouble, I'll fire him before you finish the sentence. Celia laughed. That real, genuine laugh he'd worked so hard to earn. You're impossible. You're difficult. We're perfect for each other. Finally, something we agree on. She pushed past him, heading back to the kitchen. At the door, she paused. Same time tomorrow, Mr. Salerno? Wouldn't miss it, Ms. Martinez. Good. Because someone needs to keep you in line. She disappeared into her kingdom. Victor stood alone in the dining hall, surrounded by morning light and the distant sound of staff actually enjoying their work, and realized something profound. For 10 years, he'd ruled through fear. Now, he couldn't even control his own breakfast schedule without permission from a 5-foot-tall maid who'd walked into his life and casually dismantled everything he thought he knew about power. Victor Salerno, feared by criminals across the eastern seaboard, respected by families from Boston to Miami, had finally met his match. And she just threatened him with a sad salad. He smiled. From the kitchen, Celia's voice rang out, "And stay out of my croissants. They're my croissants. Not anymore." Bernard, passing through the hallway, shook his head. The great Victor Salerno, he thought, brought to his knees by a maid with a wooden spoon and zero respect for authority. It was the most beautiful thing he'd ever witnessed.